After the success of films like Beauty and the Beast, Dumbo and Aladdin, the latest Disney animation to get a live-action remake is The Lion King.
It's been talked about, has been speculated about for months. Last night, finally, it was the star-studded premiere in London. Cast members like Donald Glover and Beyoncé were there, joined by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. And of course, who else but our entertainment correspondent, Lisa Mazimba, on the red carpet. Should warn you, some flashy images in this report.
And lions.
The Duke and Duchess chatting to some of the hundreds of fans who'd gathered in Leicester Square for the premiere. Then it was time for real-life royalty to meet showbiz royalty, led by Beyoncé, who voices a character in the film, and her husband, Jay-Z. As well as other members of the cast and the team behind the movie. Even though some of the reviews have been less than spectacular, there's still a huge amount of anticipation for the film because the original Lion King is particularly loved by audiences who went to see it in such numbers it became Disney's biggest film of the 20th century.
Everything you see exists together in a delicate balance.
This time around, the story's been brought to life using computer-generated characters and backgrounds, but has kept the familiar characters from the original, including the comedic pair, Timon and Pumbaa.
Let me see what we're dealing with here.
It's a lion! Run for your life!
It's a little lion!
It gets bigger.
And me and Billy Eichner, who plays Timon, did all of our recording together, which was a rare opportunity, and I think you can really tell we were able to improvise and really respond to one another in real time, and I think it gives our stuff like an incredibly naturalistic feel, which is awesome.
Never return.
Because of the affection so many have for the story, along with the massive box office of the original, the head of Disney, currently Hollywood's most successful studio, knows there's a lot riding on getting the movie just right.
But this is what I would call one of our crown jewels, one of the most beloved films, one of the most successful, one of the most enduring, and yes, I think there's a lot of pressure on this, but we feel great about the movie that Jon Favreau and the team made.
You have a lot of fans that you don't want to let them down, especially the ones who grew up watching the animated film. You have your cast, you got Disney, you got the new audience, so there's a lot to balance out to get this right, but I'm very happy with how hard everybody worked and the wonderful interpretations the new people brought to the roles and to the songs.
Disney have had a lot of success in recent years updating animated classics like Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin for the 21st century. They'll be hoping that The Lion King will continue that winning streak. Lisa Mazimba, BBC News, Leicester Square.
So realistic, I know it is, it really is. We're joined now by the co-hosts of Film Review YouTube channel Nitpicks, great name, that's Sam Jones and Max Barsi. Thanks very much for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Max, what do you think of this then, this idea of remaking classics?
I think it's interesting ultimately. I always think that the film trends are often representative of what's happening around us and to people in our culture really, and I think that's what it mirrors. And I think it's interesting that the phenomenon that's happening right now in cinema is people revisiting their childhood basically in new ways. That's what I think is most interesting about it, yeah.
Is it, Sam, do you think that if you look at the original now and those early Disney films, they don't quite cut it? They're not quite sophisticated enough, they're not quite cool enough, maybe, for kids today?
I disagree, obviously. I think the original is a classic, and I think it's always going to be a film that kids can connect with and adults as well. And I think the remakes are actually more for the sake of creating that sort of same amount of enthusiasm that we had with the original and getting people to relive that kind of sense of being a child again as well.
You don't think it's then laziness and the fact we've run out of ideas, so we're just going back to the oldies?
Well, I think that with making a film, there's always a risk, especially with such a high budget film. But with a remake of a classic film, you're always going to get your money back. People are always going to go see the cinema. So it's not necessarily that they've run out of ideas, but I think it's more about, we know people will come and see it.
It's about money.
Yeah, especially you've had the ultimate trailer, and you've had the previous version, haven't you, that's been out there for all those years. Max, What do you think? I mean, this is not the first time Disney have done this. That we've had the Jungle Book a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, actually, you know, it goes really far back. I mean, Disney's always remaking its films. It's always trying to cash in on previous stuff. 101 Dalmatians was obviously remade in live action. There's been a lot of times, and obviously they've also made tons of sequels for TV as well of their original animated films. You know, and of course, like the films, you know, they've always relied on remaking known brands. I mean, even the stories themselves, Lion King is basically Hamlet. You know, they've always relied on stories to recreate. I think for them, it's always about finding a surefire way of ensuring that they can make money. But what's interesting at the moment with these CGI remakes is that they're happening so frequently now. I mean, this year alone, we've had Aladdin, we've had Dumbo, and now we've got The Lion King, all with the CGI remakes. So they're really like pushing this as a way to get people to want to revisit their childhood.
The way you're talking, it's like this is seeing a bit of Dumbo here now. I mean, this is just going to go on and on, is it? They're just going to go right through the Disney back catalogue and make them all live action.
Well, to me, I think when you're banking on selling people nostalgia, which is I think what the foundation of a lot of these films is actually getting people to want to revisit those moments from their childhood. I actually don't think it can be sustainable. I think when you regurgitate the symbols that people are attached to, which I think is a lot of what these remakes are about, is about giving us the moments from those animated films in a new context, being able to give us the opportunity to relive, re-see those moments in a new way. I think the nostalgic value of those moments begin to lessen the more you get people to watch them, which is why I think with the Mulan remake, it seems like they're going in a different direction, because they're banking specifically on how different it is from the animated version. They cut out Mushu, so they don't have the dragon in it anymore. They've cut out the songs completely, as far as I'm aware. And it's like a historical action film, comparatively, which I think is interesting.
On your YouTube channel, you guys have criticised Pixar, haven't you, about the number of remakes. So, Sam, what kind of reaction did you get to that, and why are you critical of them and not so much Disney?
Well, I think, you know, Pixar is part of Disney, obviously, but also I think that because there's that childhood connection with these films, people are very defensive of them. You know, even today, you get people being like, I'm so upset that they've remade it, you know, I feel like they're taking advantage of my childhood and they're, you know, ruining my childhood. And then you also get people saying, like, how dare you criticise Lion King, like, that is my, you know, that's part of my identity.
How long until somebody sues them?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I think people can get very heated and very passionate about it, and that's why they will continue to do well. But I think with this one, it's the most interesting remake that they've done, because this has no people in it. And it's a live-action remake of an animated film with no people. And so this one, I think, is going to be sort of make or break for these reboots, because I think this is like the oddest one to do in live action.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they date, or if they date in the future, because it looks amazing now, but if that's a live action thing develops over the next couple of decades, it could look quite tired, couldn't it?
Well, I think this is one of the things that you lose as well with the live action remakes a bit, is that the classic Disney films are full of really expressive animation, and those characters are brimming with personality. Every scene of those films just has so much going on in them. When you compare that to the CGI remakes, I think actually in a lot of ways there's a lot that's constrictive with how realistic it has to look. You know, the characters can't be expressive. I mean, I don't think you can make the lions dance as effectively or will look nearly as natural with the lions dancing when they look like real lions.
We will soon see. Max and Sam, thank you very much for coming in to chat to us. We really appreciate it.
And they were real. They were absolutely real.
Are we real?
Yeah, we are real. It's all real.
Is that thing?
Oh, that's a whole new debate. Let's go and check in with breakfast teams around the UK for the headlines. We'll see you again in a second. Thanks.